In 1937, the United States government made it illegal to grow the most nutritious seed on the continent. Not because it was dangerous, not because the science failed, because three men with the right bank accounts and the right connections decided it was more valuable to them gone than alive. George Washington grew it at Mount Vernon. Thomas Jefferson pressed oil from it. In 1619, the colonial government of Jamestown issued a legal mandate. Every farmer in the colony was required to grow this plant or face a fine. 80 years later, you cannot name a single person who ate it for breakfast this morning. I'm going to show you the paper trail that proves what was taken and why the seed that contains more usable protein than beef, more omega-3 than wild salmon, and every amino acid your body cannot make on its own, vanished from every kitchen in America in the span of a single congressional hearing. Welcome to Forgotten Plant Remedies. The archive opens not in a laboratory, but in a field report submitted to the United States Department of Agriculture in 1913. A botanist named Lister Hoxie Dewey, working for the USDA's Bureau of Plant Industry, documented hemp seed as a viable food crop with exceptional nutritional density. His report noted the seed's complete protein profile, something virtually no plant source could claim. He filed it, it was catalogued, and it sat. What Dewey had found was this: hemp seed contains all 9 essential amino acids in ratios close to what the human body actually needs. It contains gamma-linolenic acid, a fatty acid that modern medicine now connects to reduced inflammation and hormonal regulation. The ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in hemp seed, roughly 3:1, is almost precisely what researchers today consider optimal for cardiovascular health. At the time, no one called it a superfood, it was just food. The kind of food that kept farming families fed through hard winters, that pressed into an oil used for cooking and medicine alike, that ground into a flour available to anyone with a field and a millstone. It required nothing, it cost nothing, it could be grown by anyone. That was the problem. Hemp does not need help to survive. It has been growing on this earth for over 10,000 years, across climates that kill everything else. It grows in poor soil. It outcompetes weeds without herbicide. It survives drought. It fixes nitrogen back into the ground, leaving the field richer than it found it. Cut it to the ground, it returns. Pull it from the soil, seeds scatter and germinate elsewhere. The plant does not ask permission to persist. Indigenous communities across North America had understood this for centuries. The seed was ground and eaten. The oil was pressed and applied to wounds, to skin, to inflamed joints. It was not medicine in the way we use the word now, separated, bottled, priced, prescribed. It was just knowledge, passed from hands to hands, grandmother to grandchild, as ordinary as knowing which berries to pick. And then, in the span of a single decade, that knowledge was made into a crime. The oil sitting in your kitchen right now is doing something to your body. Not dramatically, not all at once. Slowly. The way a decision made in 1937 by 3 men you never heard of reaches forward 80 years and lands on your dinner table tonight. The average American today lives with some form of chronic inflammation. 1 in 3 adults has cardiovascular disease. Rates of depression, autoimmune conditions, and metabolic dysfunction have climbed in almost perfect parallel with the decades since 1937. These are not isolated statistics. They are a pattern. The oil that replaced hemp in your kitchen, canola, soybean, corn, is omega-6 dominant. It floods your cells with exactly the fatty acid ratio that drives the inflammation now linked to every one of those conditions. It is cheaper to produce, easier to ship, and owned by companies that also sell you the medication to manage what it causes. You were not given a choice. The choice was made for you in a congressional hearing that lasted less than a day, and the family that paid the price was yours. There is a preparation method, documented by a USDA researcher in 1942, 1 year before hemp research was formally shut down, that maximizes the bioavailability of hemp seed's fatty acid profile. A method that makes the nutrition more accessible to the body than any supplement on the market today. The 3 men who ended it had names and balance sheets. William Randolph Hearst owned the largest newspaper chain in America and millions of acres of timber. Hemp produced 4 times more paper per acre than trees. His forests were worth nothing if hemp became the industry standard, so his newspapers ran the campaign. Story after fabricated story, equating the food crop American farmers had grown for 3 centuries with moral collapse and violence. The word marijuana, then unknown slang, was printed in his headlines deliberately, because most Americans didn't know it referred to the same plant their grandfathers had grown legally. DuPont had just patented nylon. They were building an empire of synthetic materials, synthetic rope, synthetic textiles, synthetic oils. Hemp competed with every single one, and hemp grew from the ground for free. DuPont's alternatives had to be purchased, year after year, from DuPont. Andrew Mellon was Secretary of the Treasury, the wealthiest man in America, and the primary banker to the DuPont family. In 1931, he had appointed his own future nephew-in-law, a former prohibition enforcer named Harry Anslinger, to lead the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Anslinger needed a mission. Mellon provided one. When the Marijuana Tax Act came before Congress in 1937, the hearings lasted hours. Anslinger read Hearst's newspaper stories aloud into the congressional record as government evidence. The American Medical Association opposed the bill. A representative from the hemp industry asked to testify. Neither was given adequate time. The act passed. It did not ban hemp outright. It required a tax stamp to grow it. But to obtain the stamp, you had to already be growing. To grow, you needed the stamp. The loop was intentional. The American hemp food industry was dead within years. You cannot outlaw a plant, but you can make sure no one remembers what it was for. The plant itself never testified. It had no lobbyist, no newspaper, no banker. It just kept growing in the fields of countries that never made it a crime, and waited. In 2014, researchers publishing in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry confirmed what Dewey had documented a century earlier. Hemp seed protein has a digestibility score comparable to egg white, one of the highest rated proteins in human nutrition. In 2019, a review in Nutrition and Metabolism identified hemp seed oil's fatty acid profile as clinically relevant to cardiovascular protection. The science did not discover something new, it rediscovered something old. Canada never stopped growing it. Europe never stopped studying it. While the United States spent 80 years making this seed a federal crime, other countries quietly continued building the research base that is now mainstream nutritional science. In 2018, the Farm Bill made hemp federally legal in America for the first time since 1937. 81 years. 2 full generations of families who never had access to what their great-grandparents grew freely in their own fields. The chronic disease burden in this country did not emerge in a vacuum. It emerged in the same decades that the most nutritionally complete seed on the continent was made into a crime. You cannot prove a direct line, but you can read the timeline, and you can ask who profited from the replacement. What the colonial farmer grew without a second thought, modern medicine is now rediscovering with controlled studies. What 3 men erased from the American diet in a matter of months, a continent kept alive for 80 years. What grows from bare ground in 90 days, without patent, without prescription, without permission, is back. The seed never changed. The science never failed. Only the law did. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Forgotten Plant Remedies and hit the bell. Every share keeps alive what they tried to bury. The next vault opens soon. Don't miss what's inside.